McLean's not here, so there won't be. See, Mike, even when you're not here, you get picked on. With the elk hair caddis, you can go with almost an infinite number of combinations in terms of the color of the body, what type of hackle you use. I'm going to go ahead and keep this fairly simple. We're going to do a tan body with a grizzly hackle, and then obviously the wing will be elk hair. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to tie in, giving myself about a hook eye's width back from the eye of the hook. And I'm just going to put a layer of thread down the hook and trim that off. And then for the hackle, I want something smaller than what you would use for a traditional hackle on this, because I really just want it to cover about the width of the hook gap. So I'm going to come over here along the side, and I'm just going to measure that off. That's too big. That's going to be better, so I'll take something along that line. I'm going to trim away that butt section, and then you can either peel away or trim away the real fuzzy stuff at the bottom. I'm actually trimming it away. Just leaving the little stubs there gives the thread something to grab onto when you go ahead and you tie that in. So I'm just going to go ahead and tie that in with the grizzly hackle hanging off the end of the hook. And then I'm going to come back, and now I'm going to take the tan dubbing. Now when you're putting a body on a caddis, the taper is just the opposite of a mayfly. So with a mayfly, as it would tend to get thicker as you go forward. Here it starts thicker and then tapers down. So again, following that rule of starting out with less material, because you can always add on. I'm going to go ahead, put the dubbing on there. I'm going to put that down for about 2.5, 3 inches down the hook. And then I'm going to come back and right back at the butt of the fly to cover up where you tied it in. I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit of a bump back there. And then gradually I'm just going to wind this forward. And I'm going to bring that to a point probably about probably just about a 1/16 of an inch behind the end of the hook. Now I'm going to take the hackle. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to take with my finger and I'm just going to prop that up so it's perpendicular to the shank of the hook. And then if you want to use hackle pliers, obviously you can. I'm just going to go ahead and wind that hackle forward in even turns. And as far as how many turns should you get, it's going to depend on the length of the hackle and the size of the hook. Ideally, if you can get 5 to 6 turns, that's great. If you only get 4, I wouldn't sweat it too much. this is also something where you can, again, customize your own flies for the water that you're going to be fishing. If you're going to be fishing very, very fast water and you want this thing to really float, you might add a second hackle so that you can have more turns and more fibers to keep it up there. If you're going to be on softer water that's slower moving, then one hackle with fewer turns could also work. What I just did there was I just laid the scissors right up across the top of the hook and just kind of cut out like a V section
on the top.
On the top. And what that's going to do is that's going to allow the elk hair wing to lay down flat across the top of the hook.
If you're going to do two hackles, you got to tie them in straight away.
You would, yeah, tie them both in at the back, and then you could actually, if you wanted to, you could even wind them forward together. Although that can be a little bit tricky, you may wind up cursing a little bit if one lets go and unravels on you.
Nice cork.
And now what I'm doing is I'm going to go in and take a clump of elk hair that is probably about a third the thickness of a pencil. And I've cleaned out all the under fur from it so that it will stack well. And I've run it through the stacker. And on a caddis fly, you never want to have the wing go past the bend of the hook. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to eyeball that to make sure that it's the length that I want. And once I've got that and I've got it measured, I'm going to come up. Actually, before I do that, I'm going to take that thread and I'm going to twist it because I want it to be tight. I don't want it to have unraveled and lain flat.
Do you twist it counterclockwise or clockwise?
I'm twisting it so the front of it goes right to left. So if that's your clockwise, then okay. And that's going to help you keep the turns located in one spot. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a good firm pinch wrap, and then a second, and then a third. But I'm pinching that elk hair very tightly right now so it doesn't spin and doesn't move on me. Okay? And if you've done it right, then it should just sit right up on top, right like that. Now, right now, if you have any cement, this would be a really good time to put some on. If you've got some right there, yeah, I'll go ahead and... Thank you. Okay. Until that's really locked down, anytime I give a strong tug or anything, I'm going to go ahead and hang on to that wing just to make sure everything stays in place. Then I'm going to go ahead and do the whip finish right through that same area where I put the cement in. Draw that tight. This is a fly where the two flies you're going to tie tonight, probably the strongest amount of thread pressure you'll use on most any fly that you tie. The one exception would be if you're doing like deer hair bass bugs or something like that. Now we're almost done here. What I want to do is the trimming part of the elk hair is what's going to create the head on the fly. So I'm just going to kind of pull this up until I can see the angle of the eye of the hook. And I'm going to trim that on the same line or the same angle as the eye of the hook. And I want it to be relatively short. So just kind of creates a little wedge-shaped head. But now what I can do is it's short enough and it's far enough back where I can go ahead and I can get the leader through the eye of the hook from underneath. I don't know if you can see that or not. Whoop. But so you've got that. The line of the hook of the eye is right like that. The head just follows that up, and that's your fly.
Nice.
So I'll go ahead and pass this around.
So I missed, what hook is that? What's that type?
A standard dry fly hook, TMC 100 or. Thank you.
Size.
This is a 14. I would tie these. I would have these in your fly box. Every size from 12s down to, as small as you want to go. 20s, 22s. Probably what you're going to do. Most of them, I would say, is probably 14 to 18 is going to be your biggest sweet spot.
Hey Chuck, other than the tan, olive's also pretty popular.
You can do olive. You can do black. You can do brown. You're literally